Hi, my name is Elisa from Ultrasound, and today I will be showing you how to make isolation gowns out of soiled linen bags because times are tough. So what you will need is, first and foremost, a nice iron. This is just a regular iron I got at Walmart. You will need it on the highest setting, but not quite yet. You will need your soiled linen bags. This is the regular soiled linen bags we get at Holy Redeemer. The blue ones, and out of 2 of these rolls, each roll contains 20 bags. Out of 2 of these rolls, you can get 25 gowns. The reason is that 1 bag makes for the body of the gown, as you will see later. Second bag makes for 2 sets of sleeves, and the last bag in the roll, the one that's rolled the tightest, cannot be used, and I will show you why. Because it is all crumply like this on the inside, and we will be using the folds, and we can't do that when it's all scrunchy and crumply like this. In addition, you will need a nice sharp pair of scissors, regular scissors. You will need parchment paper. I use the pre-cut type. You can use the roll, whatever works best for you. You will need a board of some kind. Plywood is fine, anything just to protect your surface from the iron. And you will need this lovely template for the sleeve and for the gown itself. They are very simple, and the cuts don't require a lot of work. What it does require is a basic understanding of how to put this thing together, which we will get to a little later. For the beginning, we are going to need to rip off 2 bags. Now, when I do this, and I am trying to make as many gowns as possible, I obviously do the whole roll at the same time, but for the purposes of showing you how to do this, we'll just rip off 2 bags. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut off the very end where the bags are fused, which would be the bottom of the bag. So you want to grip your scissors the right way. You don't want to grip them backwards because that makes for an awkward cut. And there's no need for measurement. There's no need to be very tidy. It's all going to work out. These gowns are not being worn to the Oscars. You're going to cut off the very bottoms. And discard them. Next, you're going to take one of your gowns that's going to make the body. You are going to separate. It's nicely folded. It's very, very nicely folded, and that is going to work to our advantage. You want to separate one of those folds from everything else and lay it out flat. Once you lay it out flat, you are going to insert your scissors, and at the fold, make a small cut, and then just slide. You're going to slide along that fold all the way to the end, and it's going to make a nice even cut. This is going to be the body of your gown. Now, when you look at this, you can see that you can still see the folds. So you're going to take 2 of those panels and fold them over. Here's one panel, folds right here. Here's the second panel, folds right here. So we're going to take, at the second panel, we're going to fold it over. Nice and even, and make sure it tends to stick to itself, so shake it out so it folds on both sides evenly. If you need to, you can put it down and just kind of straighten it out with your hands. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold it again on the center line. So put the 2 corners together. Make sure it's nice and even. and set it aside. We're going to take the second bag. This one, you want to unfold completely so that you have a flat bag. And the reason you want to do that is because you're going to be making two cuts, one on this side, one on the other side. You want two even halves. So same thing, you're going to make a small cut and then just slide. I gotta tell you, this is one of the most satisfying things I do, is when it slides through that bag perfectly. It's extremely therapeutic. How many times during the day do you just do something that just slides and goes through and without a hitch? All right, so now we've cut it on both sides, and these are going to be arms for two gowns. So you separate them into two parts. And right now I'm only going to use one because we only need arms for one gown. What you're going to do is you're going to fold it in half lengthwise on the fold. You don't need to measure anything, you just need to follow the folds. Make sure it's nice and flat, there are no bumps. And then you're going to fold it over in half again. Nice and straight. Make sure that the corners meet where you're folding it over. Have the fold right here and the fold right here. So this is the original crease that we folded over, and then we folded it over from the center in half. This is the corner that we are most worried about. That this is the corner we're going to work from. And this is the corner where our thumb loop goes. If you look at this, this is, when you unfold a regular isolation gown, you have, you know, the shoulder right here, and the armpit right here, and this is the length of the arm, and then you have that little hole to put your thumb in. So that goes in this corner where we folded, and we're just going to trace that little hole, and we're going to trace the template. Again, don't worry about it being perfect. There's absolutely no reason it needs to be. What it needs to do is it needs to fit, it needs to protect, and that we can accomplish. So you're going to move your template aside. You're going to pick up your layers and you're going to cut out that thumb hole. Again, don't worry if your cut is not perfect. What matters is that you can get it around your thumb and you're protected. Now again, here I'm holding it taut. I am grabbing the second part with my middle and ring finger so that it's nice and taut, and then I can just slide through it instead of cutting. And that makes for a nicer edge, and it's more fun. All right, so here is the sleeve. Now, if you open these up, you get two sleeves that stick together because they're staticky. Get 2 sleeves that look like this. This is what you should have. Now, from the leftovers, we have this lovely part left over. And what we're going to do with it is we're going to make the ties that go in the back and secure the gown. You're going to eyeball, I know those of you who sew are going to be cringing at this, but you're going to eyeball about 3 inches, 2 to 3 inches. You're going to make a cut. Again, grip it taut and just slide through. Nobody's going to care if this is straight. Nobody's going to care if it's even. They are going to care if it holds their gown. Okay, now we're going to work on the body of the gown. So I have what we cut here. This is the bag folded in half with 2 panels folded over on the inside. So here they are, nice and neat. Bags folded over, no measuring required. Just try to avoid any bumps. My template has the edges marked on there, so you will know which edge. It says here cut edge, so this is where we place it for the edge that was cut. And this goes over the fold. It says fold right there. This part goes over the fold as well. Now, the length of this is not really necessary for cutting. This is just the minimum length that we need for the front of the gown. So honestly, I can leave it rolled up and it won't bother. As long as I know that the length of the gown is adjusted, everything else is fine. You want to line it up, again, to this folded corner. This is where our neck is going to go. So you just trace it really quickly. Again, doesn't need to be super neat. And then making sure that this corner sort of lines up with everything and these lines line up. This is going to mark 2 spots. On the top portion, right here, is where your sleeve is going to attach. On the bottom portion, right here, is where your ties are going to attach. All right, now all we need to do is cut it out. So what we want to check now is that everything fits. So we're going to unfold the body of the gown. And we don't really need the bottom. What we need is this top portion. And we want to make sure that when it's unfolded, the sleeves that we cut are the same size as the sleeve portion on the gown. And as you can see, it lines up pretty well. And this is how we're going to attach it, but first we need to put something under here to protect the table from the heat of the iron. I have my hard surface to protect my table. I have my parchment paper under what is going to be our sleeve hole. So my parchment paper already comes pre-folded. If you're using the roll, just fold it down the middle of whatever length you've cut. And what you want to do is you want to place your gown, the body of the gown, down with the fold where you had it folded over, the fold facing you. So the bumpy part of the fold is going to be up. When you take the sleeve, you want to line it up, but the fold on the sleeve that it was where it was folded over has to be facing down. The reason is, now if you forget to do this, it's not the end of the world. But once you make the sleeves, it is a lot easier to fold a gown if the folds are facing the same way. So right now you want them facing each other so that when you fuse this right here and you fold the sleeve over and it becomes one continuous thing, you will have a continuous fold that faces the same direction. It's going to make it easier to fold the gown. Because obviously we're not making these gowns right before we're putting them on. We're folding them and either using them later or giving them to somebody else. Now, next, you're going to line the edges up. You are going to take your parchment paper, fold it over nicely. It does not need to line up directly with the edge of the fold in the parchment paper because the plastic, once it's heated up, is going to shrink anyway. What you want is about a 1/2 inch seam, again, eyeballing it. So we're going to take our iron, we're going to hold it on the side a little bit so we get this kind of nice, neat line. And then once we get that, we can go back and kind of iron the rest of it. And it's hard to show on video, but when you start doing it, you will see it shrinks down a little bit and you get this kind of like darker patches where it has fused. If you're not getting the darker patches, either your temperature is not as high as it should be. Mine is on linen. That is as high as this iron will go. Or maybe your parchment paper is thicker than mine and you're just not seeing it. So let me show you what the finished edge looks like. You can peel it off of here and you can tell it is all one thing. It's fused all the way down. And when you pick it up, you can tell it's one continuous seam. And your fold here is all in one direction. Now, we're going to put that down for a second because we don't need this part anymore, but what we do need is this other side of the cut that we made. We're just going to slide our piece over a little bit, place the parchment paper underneath this part, and we're going to take those ribbons we made from the leftover of the sleeve, take one of them, line it up over here, close it up, and then we're going to fuse it just the same way as we did with the sleeve. Now, I was trying to do this for the longest time with different heating tools because at first an iron didn't work for me, and then I realized why an iron didn't work for me, because my iron has this reset button and it loses temperature and you have to reset it. So I was trying to fuse things and it was losing temperature and I didn't realize that I had to reset it. So if your iron has that button, do use it. So here you go. Nice fused edge, nice and solid. Got about a 1/2 inch seam, maybe a little more. Again, doesn't really matter, not going to the I flipped my piece over. This is the other sleeve. You want to make sure that this fold is up as well so that everything lines up beautifully. You have your sleeve. Again, You want that fold facing this fold. And you're just going to repeat the entire process. You want to do this before you fuse the edges of the other sleeve, because once you do that, you won't be able to lay it flat like this. So now we have the sleeves attached. This is the inside of the sleeve. You see you have this little fused seam here. This is the outside of the sleeve. So now we're going to take our neck hole, and since we have that beautiful fold that we left intact, we're going to fold over there. And we're going to take the edge of that sleeve once it folds over, and we're going to fuse that. Now you want to make sure that your edges line up, because at this point, you know, the gown is weighing it down. It's wanting to slide around. It's not going to be as easy. You want to make sure you don't have any bumps, because it's just going to fuse badly. And you want this thing to be fused pretty well, because we don't want any leaks, especially with isolation patients. So we are going to take this edge and we are going to fuse it. Just until the end of the sleeve. You don't need to go any further. And ta-da! Here is the finished sleeve. Sometimes you'll still have some of your pen marks on it. Who cares? You're going to do the same thing to the other side, but you should be able to put your arm through it. And I'm not going to bore you with doing the other side of the gown. So what you're going to see next is the finished product. Alright, so here we have the completed gown. I am going to demonstrate just how sexy it can look. Now, the head hole is going to be tight on most people. It's going to stretch. The reason I make them smaller is because we want the neck as covered as possible. So, here we are. We have one sleeve. We have the second sleeve. We have our lovely ties, which can tie in the back or in the front, with a cute little bow if you like. And here you go, the completed gown.